Hey there, my name's Rob. Thanks for dropping by the channel. Thanks for supporting me and picking up the Quick Kit Vintage if you've already done so. If not, if you're just here to see some vintage coloring demonstration, that's cool too. Let's do it. The first thing you'll want to do is tap the plus sign in the top right corner of your Affinity Designer and then click New from Template and then locate your tutorial template file in the Quick Kit Vintage folder and open it up, and then you'll see what we see in front of us here. Let's take a look at the layer stack first so you can see what's going on. So I've got my original inks on this layer here, and then I've got some vintage newsprint texture. This dirty overlay adds a little bit of grime to the newspaper texture, and then this gritty overlay is a sort of a noise screen with lots of scratches and dirt and speckling. You turn that off. It also acts to fade the color a little bit, so that's a cool side effect of having that overlay at the top. So I put these inks in here just so we can do like a quick demonstration. I'll keep it really simple, and I'll just go over the basics of this kit. So let's take a look at these inks first. I want to take my first step towards getting a little more vintage. I'm going to age these inks a little bit, and when I say that, I mean fading them out a little bit and adding some sort of decolorations in there. So I'll go to my assets, the asset pack that comes with the Quick Kit Vintage. If you've got it installed already, you can follow along. In the textures and overlays at the very bottom, the last two overlays there are actually for this purpose of aging our ink. So I'm just going to select the first one and insert it into the project. I'm going to zoom out a little bit and make sure that my little magnet icon is highlighted down here, and that means my snapping's on. I want to make sure it's snapped to center, and it is. Cool. So I'll drag that down below my inks. I'll collapse the layers so I can see what's going on inside this little package here. And inside there are two masks pre-filled with black. I'm going to activate the first one. The second one's just a backup. You could ink directly onto this mask with white to reveal the texture underneath, but there's a sneakier way to get around that, and it's not destructive to the mask. I'm going to select my original ink layer and add an invert adjustment to the layer. I'm going to take that invert adjustment and I'm going to nest it inside the original inks layer. I'll drag that and nest it inside that activated mask, and there we go. And big difference right away that you can see. I'm going to let you see that for a second so you can see how it stacks up. Okay. But yeah, the inks are faded. They look pretty old. They don't look that like that wet, brand new black ink look. They don't have that. All right. So that's the first step. The next step, we're going to start doing our colors. When I came up with this guy, my main inspiration was that villain and his henchman from the heavy metal animated film. Definitely got to have green skin, yellowish red, reptilian eyes, and maybe his helmet is like a shiny chrome kind of thing. So we need to figure out what colors we're going to use for that. If you go up here to your swatches and select, or your color icon, and then select swatches, these two palettes come pre-installed. We've got CMYK plus gray, and then we've got the Comics YRB 63 color palette. All the colors are labeled by their formula. The formula represents the order that the plates should be applied. So Y is just a yellow plate, but then Y2, B3 is a Y2 plate and then a B3 plate on top of that. And so on and so forth. This guy's got to be green, definitely. I'm going to go with YB2, YB3, and YB for his facial skin. And just straight up yellow will help me create the green, and that's part of the formula there, Y. So I need a yellow plate and I need a B2 plate to begin with. I know that B2 is going to be the chrome color. That's how we'll create the chrome color. So B2 is going to be there, and that's perfect because it helps me make the green that I need. So I'll open up my assets over here, and I will insert a yellow plate. Cool. We need to center it really quick. Grab it. My snapping's on. I'll center it. Drag it beneath my ink layer. And then I'll drop a B2 plate in there, like so. And already you can see how it's working. The B2 plate, the layer mode on it is set to multiply. If you want to understand how these things should be stacked, and if you want to understand the layer modes, in the Quick Kit Vintage, there's a little sort of a cheat sheet that'll show you what color combinations look like, and it'll also tell you the layer mode that the layer modes you should use when you stack these. The layer modes have already been pre-applied, but because you have freedom to manipulate and change things, if you might want to refer back to it from time to time. Okay, so if I zoom in here, you'll see how this is working. My blue dots are creating a sort of an illusion of green against the yellow background. And that is awesome. So I'm going to bring this down here. And now I'm going to apply mask layers to both of these plates or screens. I don't know why I call them plates. I guess I think of these rectangles as plates. I don't think of them as a screen printer would. You can call them screens, whatever. No big deal. It's just nomenclature. Mask layer. Okay, cool. And just like with the aged ink, I'm going to go over here to my pixel persona, grab my flood fill tool, and then some black, and I'm going to flood those masks. Flood that yellow mask, and now I'll flood this blue mask. And now they're both masked. So then I'll go back into this mask. I'll come into the brush kit. If you've already installed the Quick Kit Vintage brushes, here they are. Got your Ultimate Limnifier pencils there, 3 sets of different inkers, and then these YRB brushes for masking and laying down your halftones, and then a series of halftones with graded halftone partner brushes. I'll demonstrate those in another video. For this one, I'm going to just grab this flats and mask brush, keep it real simple, and I'm going to go in here with white and reveal the parts of the mask that will help me create the skin color. So I guess I'm going to trace the contour of his face first. These brush sizes are a bit small. I always leave them like that because, you know, people have different preferences. I tend to keep mine like in my brushes sort of in a medium range, but I also tend to work on small canvases at times. So there we go. Cool. You know, it only takes a second to adjust the size of the brushes if you want it to be bigger. So I just outlined the contour of his face, and then I did a flood fill with the white on the mask. And there you go. You can see the shape of it there on the mask. And now we'll do the same thing for the helmet. And remembering that the B2 is going to help us achieve the green over the top of his face. So I'll draw out the borders. And you'll see the halftones begin to reveal as I trace the contours of the helmet. And what I love about this, style of coloring in this system, or this method rather, is like it's a lot like coloring in a coloring book with markers, and there's a satisfaction to it that is just unparalleled, and it's very like relaxing and zen-like. I don't know. Sweet. So already you can see we're on our way, man. This is already looking pretty legit. If you were looking at like a real 1970s or 1960s comic book, this may be as detailed and intricate as the coloring got. And you know, for any particular issue, I mean, they were trying to save money a lot, and that's actually a big part of the history of the development of a lot of these technologies. I recommend visiting a website called Legion of Andy. Got to give a shout out to that guy. That website is like a treasure trove of knowledge about 4-color process and vintage comic book coloring techniques, and basically the history of the whole industry. Really cool. I spent weeks just going over and over the material on that website when I was making this. Really great stuff. Okay, got to get back to the coloring here. I'm going to now go back into the mask with black and black out the areas with where the eyes are, because I want that yellow to come through. I'm going to use that later. So I'm going to black out. Ooh, got to get my paintbrush. Black out the B2 plate mask to reveal the yellow. And now things are really starting to come together. I could just stop right there. but I'm going to keep going. I want to show you what's possible. So I want to add some depth. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a B2 plate, and I'm going to add some depth to what we have already here. Um, the B2 will help me add a little bit of depth to the armor or the helmet, and it will also help me add shadows to the face. So I'll go back to my plates. I'm sorry, not a B2 plate, a B3 plate. I'll insert a B3 plate. Thicker dots closer together. Bring that guy down here, and I'll perform the same process. I'll just mask it up, fill the mask, and get going. Actually, I kind of liked the way that it looked. Um, oh man, hold on. I've got to undo something. I didn't snap it into place. I'm getting sloppy on you guys. I'm sorry. Let's snap it into place. But that allows me to come back and just check out these dark colors. I actually kind of like them, but we're gonna stick with our original plan. Stick to the plan. All right, mask layer. Fill the mask. Okay, there we go. Now I'll switch back to my brush, my paintbrush tool, grab some white, and we'll go in and we'll reveal those parts of the B3 plate that we would like to use to develop some depth in this character. Wait a minute, let me make sure I'm on the right layer here. Yeah, there we go. So you can see the dots are larger, they're closer together, or they appear closer together. They're actually the same distance apart. I took a lot of time to make sure that these things are mathematically correct. They are all they all match and line up no matter what halftone brush you use, but it all depends on the scale that you choose to paint at. I believe all these dots were painted at 800% scale. So all the brushes come in the kit standard at 800% scale. If you want larger dots, you decrease the scale. And if you want smaller dots, you increase the scale to 1,000. But I think at 1,000, you almost it's you can still get the vintage look, but it's not screaming in your face like, oh, this is vintage. Like we're creating sort of a stylized look here. It's not actually we're not actually screen printing, so that you have to remember that you're creating a simulation. It's not legit screen printing. You're capturing the essence though. Okay, cool. I think I'm done with the B3 plate. So I've got some nice shade on his face there. Some shadows, some occlusion. Yeah. And I think the last step that I'm going to take is I'm going to get some red and some evil into those eyes. But I'm not going to use a plate. I want to show you what's possible. So I'm actually going to take and go in here, and I'm going to grab my YRB 0 dots number 2 brush. This is the same brush that I created the plates with. I'll open this up, and I'll actually switch over to my CMYK plus gray palette, and I'm going to grab magenta. I'm going to start a new layer, and I'm going to drag it between the yellow and the blue layers. The mode is going to be set to linear burn, and now I'm going to get in here and color the parts of the eyes that I want to be red, which are basically the whole thing. I want the eyes to be kind of a light orange. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to give myself lots of extra space because in just a second, what I'm going to do is to make sure that these colors blend the way that they're intended to, I'm going to rotate this 15 degrees, which is if I hold my finger down while I rotate it, it will snap to increments of 15 degrees. So I'll grab the rotating handle and then I'll hold my finger on the canvas and then snap it to 15 degrees. And you can see there that I've got enough coverage. We're good to go. And so I'm simply going to go back in, and now I'm going to grab an eraser and erase the parts that I don't need. it's hard for me to concentrate sometimes because I get so excited when I see like different color combinations and possibilities, and you start to realize like what these old school colorists had to go through to get the colors that they were looking for, and the creative possibilities that the techniques and the system provided or allowed for, and you start to you begin to realize that these guys were no joke, man. They were artists, and it's kind of sad when you realize that they got replaced by technology. But we're fixing that now. There's a lot of guys out there with really cool coloring systems too. I can't act like I'm the first one to make one of these. I just I'm into it, you know. Um, all right, that's not ghoulish enough for me. I'm gonna add some red in the middle. So I'm gonna repeat the process, but I'm gonna do it with a thicker brush. I'm gonna do it with the number 3 brush, and I'm gonna do it just on the pupils. I'm gonna do the exact same thing that I just did, but on another layer. Layer burn. Going for it. All right, here we go. Cool. One more time. Oh, I kind of like the way that I kind of like the way that that moire pattern's shaping up. It's kind of like it looks pretty sinister, but that's not what I'm looking for. So yeah, got enough of that. And then again, hold my finger down and rotate. Got enough coverage. We're good to go. Erase the parts I don't want. Oh, let me make sure I've got my eraser brush selected. Okay, cool. And I only want this part to be like right here in the center of the eye. That's what I'm after. I want like these sort of really classic, like early 80s reptilian pupils. Um, man, I don't remember anything about it really, but I just remember there was that TV show, The V, and it was like the reptilians were like taking over and like eating people, and I was just a little kid. I couldn't even follow the story well, but man, I was just waiting for one of those reptilian guys to like rip their skin off, you know, so I could just sit there with my maw open and be like, "Whoa," you know. It was so cool. I used to watch that with my mom. Thanks, mom. Um, all right. Anything left to do? I don't think so, man. I mean, we look. I could get super detailed with this guy. I could go in with some. All right. You want some more? I'll give you some more. Okay. One more layer. We're just gonna do this nice and simple. I'm going to grab my YRB Pure brush. I'm going to grab cyan, and I'm going to go in here and add some shadows on the helmet and on his face to add some even more depth. I think that's overdoing it a little bit, but we can see at the end. Um, the pic that I threw up on Instagram is a little overdone, but I was just going for it, you know? I tend to do that. All right, let's do this. So I'm going to decrease the size of this quite a bit. I'm going to go down to like 95. All right, and let's get in here. I haven't set the layer to multiply yet just because I want to see what I'm doing. All right, well, let's see what happens. I'll grab it, change it to multiply. Eh, I could live without it. Let's pixel layer, multiply. Let's add just like some tiny shadows on the helmet and see what goes down. Right down here on this little chin guard thing. The way that I made these brushes, I was going for this look like the ink the ink from the press is like applied, you know, in a thick way. So it's I wanted it to have kind of an inky look when you laid it down. But the problem is if you if you overlap the strokes, you get that multiply effect, and it kind of destroys the illusion. Man, I man, that's as far as I should take it. I think a little bit on a little chin there. There we go. All right, and there you go, guys. There's your vintage coloring demonstration. Quick Hit Vintage, you can pick it up on my Gumroad. There's going to be a link down in the description. Color charts are available in there. You've got your brush set with the Ultimate Limnifier pencils. Love these pencils. You got some halftone brushes here. I'll demo one of those really quick as the outro. Um, all the halftone brushes have graded partners, which means basically if you apply some pressure, you can get a gradient. For example, I was playing with these the other night. That's why they're going to be at a smaller scale. So there's your 45-degree dots, and here's your 45-degree dots with a gradient. Just slowly adding a little bit of pressure, and then you go and you get a nice little gradient. Those come in handy if you're working on other kinds of projects, and I'll do some more demos of this stuff later. Hopefully you can get a good look at it, and yeah, pick it up, guys. I'll be doing some more tutorials for the old YouTubes, and happy designing, happy Affinity using. I love Affinity. It's my jam. You guys be good out there. Stay safe, stay healthy, take care of your family, stay positive. Yeah, we'll see you out there. Cheers.